Yeah, and if there's anything, I'm just probably, it will take about 15 minutes up the top to just to kind of talk about no code overall. But if there's anything I miss out, you can jump in and let me know. Let's play some music while we wait.
Yeah, turn it on. What are you going to turn on?
Don't know what that is. It's country. Hi, team. I think we've got some people coming in. We're going to give folks a couple more minutes before we get started here. So in the meantime, introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know if you are building something or you've got an idea to build something. It's going to be a Puerto Rico, Julio from Puerto Rico. Look at that.
What's up, Julio?
Awesome. Well, it is 6 o'clock. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes so we get a few more people in.
Yeah.
G'day, Matthew. How you doing, sir? Katarina. I feel like that's a g'day. That would be my sister-in-law from Australia. I've got family coming in. Scott in Hollywood. What's up, Cindy? How you doing? This is awesome. I'm excited. Okay. We are at 6 o'clock. So I'm going to turn this music off so we can get started on time. All right. Joe, you got me? Is this the,
yeah.
Can everyone see? Perfect. Awesome. Everybody, hello. Welcome to StartOut's webinar on how to build a web app with no code in partnership with Bubble. I'm very excited about this. I even have my good sweats on. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's an hour of introducing you to no code and what no code is. I'm Dale Wilkinson. I am on the programming board for StartOut, StartOut's Los Angeles chapter. For those that don't know, StartOut is a national nonprofit that is supporting LGBTQ entrepreneurs across the US. If you haven't signed up, I would suggest you guys do that. We got some really cool resources. We put on events every month, both here in Los Angeles and across the US. We also do an accelerator for LGBT founders up in San Francisco. We have an investor portal. So if you sign up, you can get access to the details of investors in the LGBT community. We have a mentorship program, which is really cool. So if you're a founder and you could be having issues or you just want some guidance on a particular part of your startup, whether that's tech or marketing, reach out to StartOut and they can pair you up with someone in the StartOut community that has that experience. So it's super cool. I just want to also acknowledge you guys for taking the time to join this webinar. And we all know that we could be sitting on the couch, binge watching Tiger King on Netflix, but you've taken the time out to learn something new. Obviously, you may have an idea that you want to build an app, so good on you for being able to do it. And if you haven't seen Tiger King, you should probably watch it. It's a pretty insane,
Crazy,
insane documentary, right? I'm also a founder. I created goodgigs, which is a platform to connect mission-driven companies with tech, marketing, and creative professionals who want to use their skills for good. I'm about a year into it, and I built goodgigs on no-code platform Bubble. So this was about a year ago when I was introduced to no code and what no code is. And what I've been able to build with Bubble and in the no code space, I'm so excited by it that I enjoy telling people about the no code space because the options are endless what you can do. So we have an hour. I'm going to briefly tell you what no code is. I'm going to introduce you to a handful of no code tools that you should be familiar with. And I don't know if you can see Joe, but we have Joe Brown joining us. He's the founder of newcode.co, which is a platform that helps people learn and build no code tools and startups of themselves. And New Code was actually built on Bubble as well. So that will be the meat of the webinar, where Joe will jump in and demonstrate what you can build on Bubble. And then we'll have some time at the end to wrap up with any questions and answers that any questions that you may have on the no code space. So what is no code? I think it is the future. Founders out there that have an idea that they want to build and create a startup. It's an exciting space. More specifically, it's a suite of no code tools and platforms that are being created so anyone can build fully functioning, scalable web and mobile apps. What excites me so much about the no code space is it's democratizing who can create software, right? And what's really cool, specifically with underserved communities, I think it's a real opportunity for underserved communities like the LGBTQ community to jump in and be able to realize some of these ideas that they potentially have, but we don't have the resources to spend tens of thousands of dollars to get a full development team to come and help build. Some of the benefits of no code, just quickly, you don't need any technical experience at all. I didn't write a line of code. I still haven't written a line of code building goodgigs on Bubble. It's cost effective. Like I said, you don't need to spend tens of thousands of dollars to hire developers and engineers to create whatever idea that you've got. Most of these apps, majority of these apps are free to use initially, and they've got different plans, but you can start building apps for free. You're able to create an MVP, a minimal viable product, or a prototype within days. If not a day. I think, Joe, you can attest to this, right? Like sometimes you see on Twitter, someone could have an idea and the next day they tweet again and they've actually built an app around that idea. It's pretty insane. And because you're in there, you're building the app yourself and you're understanding how to build it, you can iterate and pivot a lot quicker. So if there's an issue with the sign up flow, it's not converting users like you would want it to, instead of waiting for an engineer to change whatever needs to be changed and spend the money to do that, you could go in and literally change that sign up flow yourself within minutes. And with all this, it means that you can actually validate your idea, your business idea, a lot quicker and more cost effectively as well. So like I said, there's a handful of no-code tools that you should know. Just in the last year of me being introduced to no-code, there's been a whole bunch of new apps that have come out that help founders like you create the web and mobile apps that they want to create. There's been a bunch that have been around for a while. I think Bubble's been around for 8 years now.
Yeah.
But just in the last year, in terms of the features that have been released on Bubble is incredible. So now's the best time, especially now when majority of us would have quite a bit of time on our hands, to jump in, get your hands dirty with no code and actually create some stuff. So just a few tools that you should be familiar with. And I would suggest, because I'm going to go through these pretty quickly so we can get into the exciting stuff with Joe, just take a snapshot of the screen so you get the URL. So first up, Glide Apps. Glide Apps allows you to create mobile apps from Google Sheets. It's super cool. It uses the Google Sheets as the database. You can go in, there's a whole bunch of different templates that you can customize. So you could build your own restaurant guide app. You could create a habit tracking app, a directory app. You could even create your own Instagram. I think with what's been happening with coronavirus, you're seeing some really amazing things being created overnight. I think with Glide Apps, I've seen a directory where to get tested. I've seen another app about with links to your local restaurants, so you can download and you can buy gift cards. So you support the restaurants that have obviously had to close. So check out Glide Apps. That is super cool. There is Typeform, which if you haven't built a form on Typeform, you've most likely filled out a form and used a Typeform. It's just a really visual and a nice way of creating forms, surveys, quizzes, so you can collect data, you can get feedback from your customers, you can get feedback from employees. And it's a very easy way to build the form, and it's a really nice experience as well for the user to be able to fill out the form. What's really cool as well is that when you create the forms, you can embed those forms into your own websites or across social different platforms as well. With Typeform, they have just launched a new product called Video Ask, which I'm pretty excited about. And I'll actually show a link and a demonstration later on at the end of the webinar, where it allows you to do video questions. So you as the form builder, you can do the question through video. And then the users can actually do video answers back to you, and you can have a whole interaction over video. And again, with that, you can embed into your website as well. So Typeform is super cool. Airtable, airtable.com, it's part spreadsheet, it's part database. It is Google Sheets times 1,000 in terms of what you could do. There's multiple different views that you can have. You can have the traditional grid view like that. You have a calendar view, a gallery view. You can also create your own forms from Airtable as well. So when you're collecting data from the people filling out the form, it goes directly into the database. Their forms aren't as pretty as Typeform, but it's still easy to create those forms. And I think what's really unique about Airtable is what you're seeing here with the GIF is these blocks. And these blocks allow you to visualize and format the data in the database in a range of different ways, whether that's through a map, through different charts, videos. It has all these really cool integrations with blocks. Also with Airtable, you can embed those databases directly into a website as well. Then you have Zapier. Now Zapier allows you to connect all these different web apps that you may have signups with. So it automates workflows between those apps. So for example, I use Zapier when someone signs up on goodgigs. I've created a Zap that they call, where it triggers this automation where that information that a new user has signed up into goodgigs, that information is sent over to my email marketing platform that I use, ActiveCampaign. And then that puts it into an automation to an email automation, which is a welcome introductory email that they'll get. So Zapier kind of talks between all these different apps. And I think with a lot of no coders, they can put these different tools together, and Zapier would work as the kind of workflow between each one. But the next tool that I want to introduce you to really kind of does away with using all these multiple tools, because it has it all in one, and that is Bubble. I'm a big fan of Bubble. Bubble enables anyone to design, develop, and host fully functional web applications, all within the one platform. And this is where I'm going to throw it over to my mate, Joe. Joe is the founder of New Code, which is a platform that was built on Bubble, which helps people learn and build apps with no coding experience at all. Joe's going to jump in, and we're going to actually see how you can build something within Bubble.
Yeah,
So,
perfect.
over to you, sir.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dale. New Code is entirely built on Bubble. I think it's a great use case for what's actually possible. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. But I think you gave a perfect overview of what is possible without code, and then why you should be building things without code, and then the tools. I mean, those are pretty much the staples of the no-code movement. If you guys need any more, we have plenty to check out at newcode.co/tools or /build. And then what we'll actually do today is kind of go through an app in Bubble. I'll take you through like pages, setting up your database, checking out your elements, your styles, and then we'll take a look at their plugin ecosystem, which is akin to like Shopify's App Store. You can basically build plugins for Bubble, or you can just use one of the third-party provided plugins that they have in their ecosystem. So when you sign into Bubble, you'll essentially see this page. Dale, you able to see this, by the way? Perfect. You'll essentially see this page. This is your dashboard. You'll click New App. You can name it whatever you want, but I'll just go ahead and jump into this StartOut build app that I started. I'm going to start with a dark screen. Generally, I work better with dark mode apps, so that's just kind of how I build. You can change the background color anytime just by changing the style of it. But we'll start with pages. I think this is probably the most important part, is just adding a new page. You can pretty much do that anytime. Up here in the top left, you'll be able to click the page arrow, and I open and close that a couple times for you, but click add a new page, give that page a new name. We might call that dashboard, and then we will actually not clone it. You can clone it based on another page, but we'll just create another blank page. They'll always start out white. They always start out at 960 pixels. And then we'll go to our database. So for this example, what we're going to do is set up some profiles for users. So we're going to add a profile picture to the database, which I'm going to delete here. We're going to have their emails. We're going to add first name, last name, all these different types of fields that you would normally have for a general user in your database. And then we're also going to create a content type. I think for this example, we're just going to use a post, and that could be anything. It could be a tweet, it could be a blog post, could be anything. But we're going to just call it content. I'm going to give that content a title. You basically, when you create a new field, you just click create a new field. You'll have your field name. We're going to call it title. You can choose any number of field types. They have pretty much anything you could possibly need: text, numbers, numeric ranges, date ranges, geographic addresses, which is kind of nice when you're doing searches. But we're just going to choose text, and then we're going to choose body. So that body content for that specific post. And then for users, we're going to add a profile picture, and all you're going to do is choose image for that data field type. And then you're going to choose, we're going to type in first name and then last name. And this is critical for when people are signing up through the form that I'm also going to show you how to build. So when they fill out that form, we're actually going to map those specific entries to those specific data fields within Bubble with one workflow. So first name, last name, profile picture, we'll add maybe a username just for fun. And we'll have that be a text field. And then we will go to, we'll actually go to the index page. So for this example, our index page is actually, that's the first page. That's basically your home page. In Bubble, it's always going to be called index. You can change that at any time by clicking edit and then choosing a different page as your index if you want to. But for this example, our index is going to be a login page. Let's say this is like a paywalled app. So people have to log in to get to the actual app itself. So on this page, we are just going to create, I'm just going to make that background white. For this page, we are going to create a group. Oh, actually, let me kind of describe these elements real quick. Essentially on the left, you'll have all of your visual elements. Similar to other tools, you'll just be able to drag and drop in a lot of no-code tools. And Bubble makes it easy by just having all of the different types of elements on the left side. So you might choose text, you might choose a button, you can have images, you can go down to containers for groups and different things. Some of them have odd names like repeating group, but essentially that is like a list of things. That might be a content type. And then you can do other specific things like drop downs and search boxes. Literally all with just drag and drop. But for this example, for the sign-in page, we're just going to start with like an input, and you can just do a quick search in that search bar as well. And then we're just going to click on the page. That's going to add a small input box for us. We're going to click first name, or we're going to choose first name. You basically don't need to map it yet because we're going to do that in the workflow stage, which is what I'm going to show you in a second. You can actually copy and paste that, or you can just choose another input box. For this example, I'm just going to copy and paste that. We are going to choose last name, and then let's throw a picture uploader for our profile pictures. We're going to remove that random style. We're going to make the roundness 100, like a typical profile picture might be. We're going to put that at 60 by 60 width and height. We're going to give that, make sure that's a fixed width, make sure that's a fixed width. I'm going to select all of these, and then I'm going to group in a group. So then I can also right click and center horizontally on the page. And then I'm going to move that just to 70 pixels up. I'm going to add a little bit of height to that group, and I'm going to put a button in here. Bubble, when you create a new app, by the way, you'll have the option of using their standard template for an app, which has styles already input into it, or you can actually just create your own and start from scratch. But for this one, I already have a button style in here, but I'm going to remove. Here's some of the other editing features like the UI features, but I'm going to remove some of this other stuff. And don't fault me, everybody, for this looking not great. I'm going to center this horizontally, and then I'm going to choose sign up or turn that. So basically in a button or in an input field or anything, you'll always have like the option to change the text of that item. So for text inputs, that's like the placeholder, but for buttons, it's like the actual text on that button. But we've already got our profile picture, first name and last name on here. So we're just going to click sign up. And then this takes us to the workflow page. And this page is where you're going to live quite a lot in Bubble. This is why it actually replaces a lot of what Zapier does, a lot of what Integromat does, all in one app. First, we were designing the actual app, and now we're actually going straight into workflows. When you click a button, or really anything, you can always start and edit a workflow from that specific item. So this is kind of like a little shortcut here. So for this sign up button, I'm just going to click start and edit workflow. If there's already a workflow set up for it, it'll just take you to that pre-existing workflow. But for this one, we don't have one set up. So it's going to start with a blank here. So button sign up, and you always have this little editor here as well. So button sign up is clicked. The element is the button sign up, and that's the name of that item. You can change the event colors, whatever you need. That just helps organize stuff. Don't really need to worry about any of that right now. But we're going to click the click here to add an action button. And you'll notice here, this little modal pops up. And this is like where the power of Bubble actually stands out. So you'll have account options. You'll have like navigation options, data options. You can create new things, make changes to things. You can add payments, element actions, all this other type of stuff. But for now, we're going to actually choose the account option. And we're going to choose sign the user up. And you'll notice here, this little part popped up. You can create other actions like send emails and all this other stuff. But it'll always tell you what step you're on. But here you'll notice for email, and this is probably worth mentioning, is like for a lot of these different fields, when you sign a user up, you get to choose whatever you want for that person's email to be. But essentially, oh, actually, that reminds me, I need to add an email field to that. And this is why we design before we start building. 7. So I'm just going to add another email field here. And what you can do is choose the content format. So for this, we want to choose email. And then we're also going to choose, create another one for password. And we're going to make that a password field. And then we're going to go back to that workflow. So for email, we're actually going to type in email and our input email, which is the name of that item. And if you guys ever need to check the name of an input or something like that, when you click on it, it'll be highlighted and outlined here, but it'll actually have the name in the top left corner of that little modal that pops up. So we're just going to choose sign the user up. Email is input email's value. The password is the input password's value. And then we're going to choose change another field. That's going to be first name. And then we're going to choose change another field. And we're going to choose last name and then profile picture. Let me reload the page real quick because it had the old profile picture field in there still. And then for profile picture, we are going to choose the picture uploader profile picture's value, last name, input last name's value, first name, input first name's value. So essentially now at this point, we've mapped the input field for email, the input field for password, first name, last name, and profile picture, all to signing a user up. So now when somebody clicks that sign up button, that user is now created. So to verify this, what we're going to do is we're going to use this dashboard page, this newly created page that we had. We are going to, I'm just going to copy and paste this out of here. And if you're on a Mac, you can use Command-C, whatever you need. And then you can actually just drag and copy and paste it directly into another page, which is also another powerful feature of Bubble, is that you can basically take elements, and we'll get into reusable elements as well, and kind of utilize those across all of your pages. You can create global elements and things like that. So for this example, we're going to take out the sign up button. Basically, I just want to show you that the user that we're signing up has actually been created. So we're going to take this and we're going to choose basically the placeholder or the dynamic image for this profile picture on the dashboard page. We want to make the current users, and then you can choose any of that current user's profile field. So this is actually amazing because you can choose, you can basically create like a paywall dashboard or like a content site or anything that is all based on the current user who is logged in. If they're not logged in, obviously that won't work, but if you're making sure that they're logged in first, you can show them content that's only for them. You can show them content that they've created, whatever you need, but we'll choose current users profile picture for this specific data field. For the profile picture, the initial content, we will make current users first name, and then insert dynamic data, current users last name, and then we'll show you their email. So current users email. So now let's see. And then we're going to go back to the index page. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a second step. So at this stage, we've now created a sign up form. We've added a sign up button. The sign up button has the first step being sign the user up, but we haven't told Bubble to actually do anything after that. So the user has been signed up, but nothing actually happens after that. So what we're going to choose is go to click another action, go to navigation, and then we're going to go to page. This is telling Bubble like, hey, after this first step, we then want to go to another page. So we're going to go to our dashboard page, and we're going to send, we actually don't need to do that, but you can. There's lots of different data types that you can actually send to another page. So for this example, we're going to send current user. Oh, actually, it doesn't have a data type, so scratch that. But we are going to go to preview up in the top right, and you can do that anytime. And then right now, I'm actually just going to upload a picture. Here's our no-code camp logo. I'm going to choose Joe as my first name. My last name is Brown. My email is joe@newcode.co. And then my password can be anything. I don't need to save it. Oh, actually, I'm going to change that. 888. And then click sign up. And then now we are on the dashboard page, which shows my profile picture, the current user's profile picture. It shows an input with the current user's first name, the current user's last name, and the current user's email. So basically in, what was that? Just a few minutes, we've created a sign up form, a dashboard page with a current user's specific data. But now we want to add a couple other things. So on that dashboard, we want to do some cooler stuff. We want to add some content, maybe let them add whatever else they want to that page. So we're on the dashboard page. I'm going to leave this current user's info up at the top. What we're going to do is we're going to take our repeating group. So essentially a repeating group in Bubble is a list of things. This is basically going to let you do a search for content from our database that we created earlier. And let me extend this page a little bit. I'm actually just going to make this page 2000 pixels high. And then in this content, we're going to group that. So that just puts a group around the repeating group. The repeating group is the list, and then the outer group is actually just what I'm going to use to help me structure it. So as you're doing responsive design in Bubble, which can get a little tricky, and ask me if you have any questions about that, we are just going to structure it with a group around it. So I'm going to center that and center it vertically. So now we've got our repeating group list inside of this other group. We're going to add, just for looks, we're going to add a little drop shadow to that. And then, so now we've got a small content box here for this. We're going to make that a little bit rounder. And then in this repeating group, essentially what we can do is we can utilize some of this user information from the current user, as well as like other users' information. So let's say you guys are creating a dashboard that has a list of users that just have signed up to your account. Maybe it's an admin dashboard, or maybe it's a list of freelancers or something else. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to copy this profile picture field up here. It's not exact, it's still mapped to the current user, but we'll change that in a second. So I'm going to drag that straight into the repeating group. In repeating groups, you only really are putting things in the first cell of that list, and then it kind of just copies down. So you'll notice when I have it out, it doesn't have anything in there, but as soon as I put that in there, back in the repeating group, it kind of duplicates it across. So I'm going to center that vertically. I want to get rid of this weird dotted line in the middle. So I'm just going to take that out. So we'll make that color 0, or you can just make the separator none. But I like having a separator a little bit. So I'm just going to make that color 0. We're going to just have 4 rows. But you can choose like the layout style of that. So you might choose full list, you might choose an extended vertical scrolling list. So that's like if people start scrolling, it only loads like maybe 16 items or whatever that is visible on page load. And then as they scroll, it starts loading some more. You can have a fixed number of cells, horizontal scrolling, that type of stuff. But for this, we're just going to choose user as the data type. This is important. So like when you are using repeating groups and lists of items, what you're going to do is you're going to choose do a search for. What you're telling Bubble is when this page is loaded, this list, you need to have data in. And what you want Bubble to do is actually do a search for items within the database that you've created. So we're going to do a search for, and then you choose the data type that you want to search for. So it shows our users and then our content. So those are the two data types that we created originally. So we've got users, and then you can choose constraints. So maybe like we only want to do a search for people that are whose first name equals, and you can choose like contains, greater than, whatever you need. Maybe Joe. So literally we want to search for everybody that's named Joe in our database. So I'm just going to choose that. And then we're going to make this a full list. And I'm just going to refresh the page. And then now we've got a list down here with the profile picture, but just to confirm, let me create a text element, and I'm just going to plop that straight into the repeating group. I'm going to give that a 15 pixel height, or whatever it needs to just show. And then I'm going to make that text. And here is how you can actually change that. So the profile picture, it was showing the current user's profile picture was Joe. But what I want to do is choose the current cell's user. So a cell is just that specific item in the list. So I want to choose current cell user's profile picture. And then for the text, I want to choose insert dynamic data and then current user's first name. And then I'll add a space, and then I'll add more dynamic data to that that's separate, current user's last name. So now I should, when I reload the page, have a repeating group list with a profile picture and a first name and a last name for that specific user in that list that we did a search for. So there we are. And there's profile picture, first name, last name of that user. What I'm going to do is go back to the sign up page. And I'm going to go ahead and create another user after I take this constraint off for first name Joe. And I'm going to create another user just so you guys can see another person in that list. So let's go ahead. And I'll choose a different profile picture as an icon, very blurry. Dale Wilkinson. Hopefully I spelled your last name right there, Dale. Dale at goodgigs.app. And then we'll make that 888 as well for the password. We're going to sign up. We've just signed Dale up now. It is showing his data up here, but in the repeating group on the dashboard, we've actually done a search for all users, and that included his profile, which is brand new. So we've now got Joe and Dale on this list. Let's say we want to go ahead and delete somebody. So I'm just gonna actually add a big red button here. And if this is like an admin dashboard or something, this is just showing you an example of what you can do with repeating groups and dynamic data that is generated by the app. So we're gonna add a big red button here. We're gonna make that like really small so it fits in there. We're gonna make that delete. And we're gonna make the text font size 10. And then, so now we've got this little delete button inside of every cell of that repeating group. So what we're gonna do is gonna choose delete. And then we are going to, so as somebody clicks that button delete in that specific user's cell for the list of items, what we're gonna do is choose delete thing. And we're going to choose delete current cell's user. So I'm just gonna go ahead and delete Dale from this list. Sorry, Dale. So what we're gonna do is gonna choose delete, and we've now deleted him. I was logged in as Dale, and now since my user account is deleted, there is no profile picture here. There's no first name, last name, or email. Only Joe is left. So I'm gonna go back to that page, and what we're gonna do is actually go ahead and create a new page. We're gonna call this sign in. We're gonna choose the index page, which is our sign up page, as the page to copy. We're gonna get rid of first name, last name, and profile picture because you don't need those when you sign in to an app. We're going to drag those to the top of this group so that it's at the top. And then we're going to make this sign in, and we are going to choose. So this page was copied. So we've got all these workflows from the previous page that we copied for that button. But what we're going to do is delete those, and then we're going to choose user account and then log the user in. It's pretty much that simple. We're going to choose, again, the input emails value. For password, we're going to choose input passwords value. And then remember this email, that's like if people exit that session, the browser doesn't recognize them again, they will just drop it. But if they're still being tracked and stuff, they'll remember the email for the next session that they're in. So we're just going to choose yes. You can choose stay logged in as well. Just like if they actually exit out of that session, they'll definitely be logged out. So then we're going to call this page is sign in. So I'm just going to go ahead and type sign in to that. And then we also want to make sure that we are navigating to the dashboard page. And so we'll reload again one more time. And so at this stage, we've created a sign up page, we've created a dashboard with dynamic content, and now we're creating the sign in page. So I think hopefully my password was 888 and I didn't type that wrong. So joe@newcode.co, we're going to sign in. That is not the right password, of course. Let me go back and I will actually just going to go ahead and create another account for Dale. Dale at goodgigs.app, password 888. So everybody, if I'm wrong, I know that I typed that in the right time. So it shows Dale. Again, it shows me and then Dale on this page. And then what we're going to do is go to sign in. We're going to choose Dale at goodgigs.app and then 888. And then we're signed in. So it just logged me back in. Technically, I was already logged in, but if you don't have a workflow that takes them to the dashboard page when they are logged in, then it'll just leave them there. So we're now logged in as Dale again. Because we've put this dashboard page in here, anybody's kind of able to delete them. You can obviously choose whether things are hidden, and maybe this is a good time to show conditionals. So if you're making it a dynamic dashboard with content that should only be shown to specific users, let's say, you might choose this specific group. And under appearance, that's kind of where you do all the UI work, right? You change like shadows, styles, all that type of stuff. Then you have two other tabs, conditionals, which is where you can pretty much tell Bubble to do anything specific to a dynamic piece of data. So like if the current user's first name is Joe, then show them this stuff. If their email is this, then show them this other content. If their role, and let's say we put a field in there for role and their role is admin, then you can choose to show them data only for admins or only for users. So for this example, we're going to choose current user's first name is Joe. So when current user's first name is Joe, this element is visible, and we're going to leave that unchecked. When you leave it unchecked, you're telling Bubble, like, just hide it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this page. I'm signed in as Dale right now. So if my first name isn't Joe, I shouldn't see that repeating group down here. Let me go back. First name is current user, first name is Joe. Oh, is Joe, is not Joe. So let's do that. Yep. And so it's current user's first name isn't Joe. So my name's Dale. My name is not Joe. So I cannot see that repeating group. So that's another example. That's just a simple example of what you can do with conditionals. You can also do things like do a search for, and maybe like the repeating group is a list of tweets or something. If the list of tweets is like if there's no tweets for that specific day, maybe it's like empty, and then you show it a different data source. So maybe like if current user's first name is not Joe, maybe we want the data source to actually be something else. So maybe it's like do a search for content instead, but we don't have any content, so it wouldn't show anything. But that's just an example of what you can do. So yeah, I mean, we just built a sign up page, a sign in page, a dashboard. But let's say we want to create content. So I've kind of showed you how to add new content and create new users and delete users, but we haven't like created anything else. So what I'm going to do is actually choose button. We're going to choose create post. And maybe this is like a content piece, maybe it's like a blog post or a tweet or whatever. But we're going to specifically give it a title and a body. So pretty much a blog post. We're going to use the multi-line input along with the regular text input. So the multi-line input, when you drag and drop it, it just kind of looks a little bit bigger. But that is just because when you start typing into that field for UX, it's actually going to be nicer to use a multi-line input that allows you to use like longer text forms. It's going to fill up the page as they type even more. So you might be able to drag and drop a bunch of stuff and the text field box will actually expand with it. Whereas the title will just be like straight when they type. But we're going to click create post. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this field, this whole group up here that I created for users. I'm going to put down here and I'm going to delete that profile picture in that. So we've basically just created a copy of the user table above that we've created, but we're actually going to make this for this repeating group. We're going to make the type content, and we're going to do a search for content. We actually don't have any content in there now, so it's going to be empty when we refresh that page. But we're going to choose current cell's title as the option. We're going to delete the last name option. And then we're going to keep this delete button. We're going to actually choose to make that a delete thing. We're going to choose current cell's content. And so now we've got a table. So in like literally less than 30 seconds, we've duplicated this user table, created a content table that is pretty much the same thing. It allows users to delete a piece of content. We've also created a form for people to actually create content. So what we're going to do now is we're going to map this create post field, or this button, to the specific field so that we can create a piece of content. So what we're going to do is choose data. And so if when you're talking about user accounts and creating, deleting, that type of stuff, that's always going to be under account because you're dealing with the actual users. But when you're talking about custom created data types, so like content, it might be like, for new code, we have like challenges, events, forum posts, all that type of stuff. You want to go to data, and that's where you kind of create new things, delete things, that type of thing. So we're going to choose create new thing. We're going to choose content. We're going to make the title our, we need to map, or we need to choose a name for that field. So title input. And then body content input. And you can name it whatever you want, whatever's easiest. Similar to like other design platforms, you just want to name them so that they are recognizable. And at any point, if you guys get lost, you can always choose up here. These let you, this search bar lets you search the elements on a page. So if I'm searching for like an input, I might choose like input. And then if I've named them something with input, it'll show all of them. I'll choose title input, and then it kind of highlights that. So just in case you guys get lost, there that is. So for title, we're going to go back to this workflow, create a new content type. Title is going to be the title inputs value. There's other options in here, but you generally just need, when you're creating something, you just need the value of that input. And then we're going to choose body, and we're going to choose body content, and we're going to choose input, and we're going to choose the body content inputs value. And we're going to go back. And then what we're going to do is actually tell Bubble to refresh the page. So without needing the user to refresh the page, we're going to tell Bubble to do it because we want to make sure that that table actually shows the new post that they just created. So what we're going to do is load this. So now you'll notice we've still got that form, that current user's info up here. We've got our user info here, but we've got this form and then no content in that content table yet because we haven't created anything. We're going to choose StartOut is awesome as a title, and we're going to choose something as the body because it doesn't get shown in the table, so it doesn't matter. But create posts. You'll notice the item is actually created. So Bubble actually does create things live. So if people are looking at a specific table or if something is updated in the database, it'll update live in the app at any stage. So I just refreshed the page to show you guys what that workflow looks like. But now we've got our content list here. So start out is awesome. And then we've got this delete button again. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. So we've now deleted it. I'm going to type a whole bunch of gibberish in here. We're going to create some. It refreshed the page again. I'm going to type in even more gibberish and create a secondary post just to show you guys. So then we've got a table with 2 items in it that are just newly created. Again, that could be like maybe you're building like the next great social network platform, and you've in less than 30 minutes have created an app for people to actually post content, to sign up, to sign in, and then actually build out forms and that type of stuff, whatever you really need. So, oh gosh, it's 9:50 already. So we are actually kind of done with this portion. What I'm going to do is give you guys a quick overview of the plugins area, which is really critical for Bubble. So basically, you'll be able to install plugins similar to like WordPress or Shopify apps and that type of stuff at any point. You just go to the plugins tab, click add plugins, and then they'll have a search option where you can just kind of look through any number of plugins. But let's say we want to let users log in with Twitter. Bubble actually has their own plugin for that. We're just going to click install and then done. You'll have to get your keys and stuff. You just put it in there. But then it's just as easy as so let's say this button is log in with Twitter. We're just going to change that and then say we're going to delete these workflows and we're going to make that workflow account and then log in, sign up with a social network and then choose Twitter. So kind of building in those types of plugins is extremely easy. And yeah, so there's thousands of plugins that they have in their ecosystem. Definitely go check it out. And just so you guys know, I will actually give Dale a link to this to then share with everybody. So we can, if anybody can check this out as an example for when they're building.
Awesome, Joe. I told you guys he's a pro. I still learn stuff from him, right? You do things so quickly. He is an absolute pro at this, but you just got to jump in and start, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if that was too quick for anybody, go to newcode.com.co and ask us any questions there. I'm available anytime to answer questions. So
yeah, I think if you stop sharing your screen, Joe, I'll just put up
perfect.
The deck that I have. I'm sharing. Okay, you've got it. So just from my experience with Bubble over the last year, it is a bit of a learning curve to jump in and start building these pretty complex apps. But once you get in and get some time under your belt, you're able to really create some amazing things. So my first tip would be, like Joe just said, join no-code communities. There's a whole bunch of communities out there. People super excited about the no-code space. So Joe is the founder of newcode.co. So you're able to communicate with other people in the community, as well as looking at video tutorials, that kind of thing. Start with the lessons on Bubble. So again, take a screenshot of this screen so you can see the URLs. Bubble has a whole bunch of lessons that will just kind of teach you the basics of how to add elements to the data, how to use the design element to it. If you get stuck in Bubble, which I got stuck plenty of times, my advice is go directly to the forum, and the URL is there. Bubble has a forum. It has a big community of bubblers that are creating their own apps. 99.9% of the times, if you run into an issue, someone else has had that same issue. They posted in the forum, and the community have stepped up and have answered it. So I would spend too much time just trying to work it out myself and forget that the forum is there. Go to the forum. Within 5 minutes, you've got the answer, and just start building. Right, like just jump in, have some fun. Considering the time that we're in, we all have extra time on our hands. So just jump in and build some stuff. Have some fun, and then if you do have an idea, I would just say, hey, make sure you're creating something that is doing some good in the world, right? Helping people. Bubble take a screenshot of this screen as well. Bubble have graciously given us a free month on their personal plan. And I just want to reiterate, though, you can start building for free. There's a free plan there, so you can just start building for free. And then once you want some extra features or you're ready to launch, then check out the different plans that they have. So take a screenshot of that. That is their offer that they're giving. Like Joe said, get in touch with us. We're going to have some time for some questions. So in the Q&A, put in some questions that you have, and we'll try and get to all of them. But if we can't get to them tonight, then reach out to us either by email or find us on Twitter. I have plenty of time to answer any emails, please. I'm lonely over here. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then we can jump into some of the questions that have come through. Let's see. Joe, can you see the questions on your end?
Yeah, the Q&A tab, yeah.
Yeah. So I think a good question from Trevor, the Bubble's privacy and security policy, since it is storing the data. I think, just from the founder's perspective, you should be doing your due diligence in terms of when you build your app, making sure that you've got your own privacy policy and such. But Joe, do you know any more from Bubble's end?
Yeah. From a privacy standpoint, actually, Bubble has in the database, I didn't show it in the demo, but they actually have a privacy tab, and that's entirely dedicated to creating or making sure that every data type has a specific privacy policy to it inside of Bubble. So let's say a specific user, an admin, should get access to all of the data. Then you would be able to say like only admin users would get access to all fields of a specific data type. But for like regular users or non-logged in users, you would be able to say like, do not let them access specific fields within a user. So then even if they looked at the backend code, the JavaScript from Bubble, they actually wouldn't be able to see any of that data unless they were logged in and had the correct role or admin access for that specific field. So there's, I would say, take a little dive into Bubble's database. You'll notice the privacy tab. Check it out. You'll get the hang of it pretty quick. It's pretty self-explanatory, and it's very useful.
Awesome. And then Bubble's main competitors and how Bubble is differentiated. Joe, since you're kind of like across the whole no-code space, you've got a good perspective on this.
Yeah, to be honest, like I use a ton of different tools. I use Glide apps for small PWAs. I use Adalo for mobile apps. I use Webflow, especially like we use Webflow a lot. Our nocode.camp website is built on Webflow. We use Webflow for client projects and all that type of stuff. Webflow is probably the most comparable, but app to Bubble that's not as comparable from a feature set standpoint. Webflow is great for designing, building marketing sites. You can still build dynamic sites with like Webflow plus MemberStack plus Zapier or Integromat. But then again, it's a whole stack of tools you need just to get what's in Bubble. So that's really the biggest differentiator. Like all of that work that we just did in under an hour would likely take a beginner quite a bit longer to actually connect all those different tools together. whereas the UI is definitely not on par with like something like Webflow right now. They've built the backend and the workflow feature set and the centralization of building an app without code into Bubble, and they'll be able to actually build out a better editor in the next year or so, whenever that happens. So I have no doubt that that's going to get better. But their biggest differentiator is just the fact that you don't need like 4 or 5 different apps to do what Bubble does. And the plugin ecosystem actually allows you to like build some really comprehensive apps. I noticed actually somebody asked about like a texting solution and stuff, and you can like, I recently built an app for that integrates with Twilio, and like we're able to send like a whole group of people text messages and then sending them each dynamic links in those text messages. Like that's just not something that you can do easily within Webflow and Zapier and a bunch of other apps. Yeah.
Awesome. So, okay, what else we got here? Katarina, my sister-in-law. So is there a live chat room to assist while you are building your page? It's not a live chat room. It is a forum, but you know, at any one time, there would be so many bubblers building their own app. So I think you can get answers pretty quickly, and you can search the forum for questions that people have had previously and see the answers. So basically, close to being live.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that one's done. Ryan, how do you browse available templates such as a marketplace template? It's pretty easy, isn't it, Joe? It's like
yeah, bubble.io/templates.
There you go.
Yeah.
There'll be a button on their main site that you'd be able to see templates, and the cool thing with that is Bubble's got a few of their own templates, but then there is a marketplace that allows any other creator that has created a template to put it up onto the marketplace so that you could
and when you submit a template to Bubble, it has to be free of errors and stuff. So when you buy something from the Bubble marketplace, or even if it's a free option, free template, you know, it doesn't have any errors in it. It can show you exactly what you need to build if that's like the kind of app that you're looking template based off of.
Yep. Okay, done with that. Is it possible to make a timer or even calculator like application?
Yeah.
Yes. Short answer, yes.
Yes.
I actually created a calculator, bit of a calculator where it was like, if you're a freelancer, you can work out how many more hours you need to bill for the rest of the year to hit your revenue goal. For the year. So I built that on Bubble. I built an invoice template, and create your own invoices and send them to clients and such. And then you've got a whole dash of all your invoices that you've sent. Okay, so that's done. You see anything else there, Joe, that you...
Other questions in there?
Yeah.
Stephen Cox asked about enabling a Bubble app to work from one's own domain, example.com rather than on bubble.io. It's actually really easy. So along the left sidebar where I showed you everybody like database plugins, that type of stuff, they have a settings area. You just choose to add a new custom domain. They give you the records that you need to add to your registrar, and that's about it.
Awesome.
Ty Tran asked, have you gotten to a point where you've reached Bubble's limits? I can't speak for Dale, but I have honestly not found something that I couldn't build within Bubble yet. We've built like mapping apps. You can pretty much map anything you want. You can have dynamic lists of anything, calculations. You can build user flows. Like we've built like meetup.com basically into new code for our events page. Like there's no limit, I don't think, except for like right now, maybe like AI and machine learning and some voice stuff. Voice flow makes that quite a bit easy now, but that's probably like the stuff that you would not do in Bubble quite yet. Other than that, pretty much nothing.
I would agree. For some reason, my video went off. I would agree. Yep, I haven't reached any limitations. So that one is done. And then a couple people were asking for the link to the Bubble free plan. So I just put that in the chat. So make sure you click on that as well. So that's being done.
Does Bubble have a geolocation tool? Yes. So you can add a map to a page. And when you do that, you can like tell the map to like ask or use current user's location. And when you put that in, then Bubble just automatically asks like when that page loads, like asks the user, can we use your location? Like you'd see on any other app. And then it takes that. So as long as they get permission, yeah.
Awesome. Myrna, about I think she asked earlier in the chat whether there were plugins for texting mobile, which I'm pretty sure, Joe, there's like a Twilio.
Yeah, I use the
integration.
Twilio integration. Like that's probably the easiest. You just need your API keys. Everything else is like built in there for you. It's as simple as like choosing what phone number you're sending from and stuff. And that's about it. And the body of the message.
Okay, done. Katarina again, so you can modify a Bubble template. Yes, ma'am, you can.
Yeah.
So that is.
So when you buy a template, you're going to open it up and it looks just like what we were doing in that example app, and you just drag and drop, do whatever you want to it.
Yeah. What sample sites, apps are out there built with Bubble that we can check out? Like Joe said before, you could go to newcode.co. Bubble has a showcase. So if you just go to Bubble's website, they have a showcase of a whole bunch of different apps, including new code that have been built with Bubble. And I actually didn't mention this earlier, but StartOut, their portal has just been built on Bubble as well. So if you are a member of StartOut and you're into that portal, that's been built with Bubble. And then on newcode.co. So if you go to newcode.co, Joe has a whole bunch of a showcase there as well of different apps that have been built with Bubble.
Yeah. I see another question just in the regular chat. Can you add drag and drop objects and or text on top of imagery? Yeah, you can. Basically, you're just going to take an image, you're going to drag it onto the canvas, and then you're going to take a text element and you're going to drag it over the image. And you can choose, like when you right click stuff, you can choose like send to back and send forward and stuff. But you can put text over images and it'll show like that. If you group those things together, then it'll like constrain it. So if you're choosing like if it's a piece of content or something that has like a background image with like text that says like the blog posts or something, and that's the featured image, you can style it just like that. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm just deleting a couple of these where I think we've answered them.
Yeah.
So if you see anything else, I did actually put in, I told you guys earlier that I would send a demo of Video Ask Typeform's new product Video Ask. I did send add the link into the chat. So click the link, check it out, and have a play around with it as well.
Somebody asked if you can make it so your users can drag and drop objects. They have a plugin for dragging and dropping things. Again, super powerful and very easy. You can do both like a canvas style thing. So like, let's say you're making like an e-commerce printing marketplace or something, and like you're letting people design t-shirts. You can have like a little box. You can put a box on like a mock-up t-shirt or something. Let people drag and drop images into there or text. Yeah, so that's pretty easy.
Alex asks, what would be the best way to start with Bubble? Is there a masterclass or university similar to Webflow that will get me up and running? there is bubble.io/lessons, which are just kind of quick tutorials, really simple tutorials for you to start. But then Joe over on newcode.co, you have some bubble specific tutorials as well, right?
Yeah, our learn area, we have community curated content. So basically all the no code content that we are finding from YouTube, we're just actually curating inside of New Code Learn. So go and check it out. Gabby's like who I learned from, and she's still like the best bubble teacher in my opinion. So go check out her tutorials. She takes you through like, there's it looks a little daunting at first, but there's like 70 plus videos she has, but they're each like micro videos that take you through like different parts of bubble. And I think it's really important to do. So like definitely take the time to kind of dive in. You won't regret it.
Mm-hmm.
H asked, not sure if my, can one build a mobile app and a comparable web app with inputs linked to the mobile app? You can build like PWAs out of the web app that you build in Bubble. So that would probably be your best bet. You can also like utilize the Bubble database, and maybe Dale has a different answer, but you can utilize the Bubble database and kind of send that data to an actual mobile app. Maybe that's like a Glide app or an Adalo app or something else that's like more native. Glide apps is PWA as well, but Adalo actually has mobile apps that you could send the Bubble data to. So it'd be pretty easy to be able to set that up. But normally I just go for PWAs because it's a little bit easier. Because then technically it's all Bubble. You can build a PWA in Bubble.
Anonymous attendee asks, is there a job demand out there for people with Bubble proficiency? From my point of view, yes. Like no code's all about you jumping in, learning it, building it yourself. But you could get into a really good place, like where I'm at the moment, where Good Gigs is up, there's revenue coming in. I want to focus on the business. Now I want to get Bubble builders to come and build the next iteration on Good Gigs. So if you are in a fortunate position where you don't have the time, or you do have the resources to get in freelancers to help you with Bubble, there's a lot of Bubble experts out there, freelancers on Joe's platform, newcode.co. There's a whole list of experts there. And also there's new agencies that are starting up. Joe's also got like a spin-off to New Code, which is a no-code agency that will help you build whatever app that you want. You would agree with me, Joe, right? There's a lot of opportunity for.
Yeah, tons of opportunity, and I encourage more people to jump in. Honestly.
Yeah. Like
there's never gonna be a shortage of ideas to build, and no code makes that extremely possible.
Yep. Seth had a question. Facebook integration. Is there a way to develop an app that shows users information only if they're Facebook friends of each other? I don't know the answer to that, Joe. Do you know that? I think there's plenty of Facebook plugins.
Yeah, I think the API for Facebook, like I've seen plenty of apps that allows them to like access as long as you give the app the permission to access your friends list, it should be able to like create an app that only shares your info with your other friends. So yeah, I think it's entirely possible, but I would check like the Facebook API. There's Facebook plugins that you can go check out on the Bubble plugin ecosystem. But like if you don't find what you're looking for, you can also use there's a specific plugin called Bubble, and I didn't mention this, Bubble API connector, and you can actually connect any API you want. And so that's something to worth looking at as well, especially if you have a little bit of experience like with a little bit of code too. If you're more no code, low code, then building that is entirely possible.
And touching on that, right, Joe, you can customize the app. You can actually go in and create some code, add some additional code, right, to further customize the app that you build.
Yeah, you can add any code you want to it. There's also other plugins to add code in various places to also make that a little bit easier. So it's extremely customizable. I mean, definitely the most customizable no code tool in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that, there was someone that says what things Bubble cannot do. I think you answered it before, right? With AI and
AI, ML, and voice are things that I probably wouldn't like immediately do in Bubble. I'd probably look for another tool, but everything else you can pretty much do in Bubble.
Yep. And I think that answers Orkan's question as well. What are the main limitations of Bubble? How do we
These
get a
questions
copy
are
of
awesome.
this recording?
Thank you.
We will, yeah, we're recording this session. So StartOut will send out, we'll have a way of accessing this recording as well. We'll work that out.
In the chat, Oleg asked, would this app be compatible with iPhone App Store? How do I demonstrate it to my team? If you're building a mobile app now, let's say your team hasn't started building it, I would honestly recommend building it with like a Dalo or something and then utilizing the Bubble database for the actual web app. I think that would be a better bet. Adalo also makes it much easier to build a mobile app that is responsive and would be probably approved much faster by the Apple Store, which is always a pain. So I would definitely take a look at adalo.com, and I'll throw that in the bottom too. I don't think we
yep. Anything else there that we can answer?
Somebody asked, Kelly asked, what is the back code? The back code is JavaScript. Again, you can customize that however you want, but again, it's you don't exactly own the code to your Bubble app. You can't move that out of that platform. And there is no self-hosting option, so you can't move it to another server technically. And the cost does include hosting, so that's the benefit. Like up until recently, we had been with like 1,600 users. We had run new code with the $29 a month option, I think. So for 30 bucks a month, yeah, 30 bucks a month, we've been running the app for 1,600 people. And that probably would have scaled to like tens of thousands before we needed to upgrade, but.
David asks, is it possible to collect analytics on where people click and how people engage with an app? That's not necessarily native with Bubble, right, Joe? It's more like the Google Analytics that you'd have to.
There's actually a couple plugins for a couple different app analytic platforms that you can download, add your API keys to and stuff, and then it'll in the Bubble workflows, you'll have the option of like recording like a button click or something in the app analytics platform. It's pretty easy. You can do it with quite a few different app analytics platforms, really. The other option is like, if you want to, you could, if it's simple, let's say it's like page views or something, you could technically build it in your Bubble database. You would choose, you would actually create a data type for page views. Anytime a page is loaded, you run a workflow to then count that page view, record the page name, link, and maybe who viewed it, current user, and you could technically keep it in the Bubble database and create a dashboard, admin dashboard page based on that info. That's always up to date, which would be crazy.
Mill asks, can I use and modify the dashboard layout to personalize it? I think it's all potentially possible. For example, what I did with the invoice template, I created a kind of a standard invoice template that a freelancer can come to create their own freelancer. But then I had some customized features where they could change the color of the highlight color, the color of the background of the invoice. So I think it's all possible. It depends what you're trying to build, right? And I'm working on the freelancer profiles at the moment. And what we're going to do, we have these kind of blocks where you talk about the freelancer's skills, talk about the an integration with Behance or Dribble, so their work portfolio, and using these blocks where they'd be able to customize where at which order those blocks appear in. So I'm in the middle of that build, so we'll find out. But Joe, you got anything else to add to that?
So dev.to has a good like theming type of example. So like when you go into your settings for an account on dev.to, you can actually like choose what theme of that app you want. Technically, like you could choose like a pink, a green, a blue, a dark mode, and then a light mode. Technically, you can do that for your bubble apps. You would save the theme name. You would create a theme name data type in your database. Choose the name, like create a field type for name, create a field type for color, and then you would actually save whatever theme that current user wants to their profile. And then whenever they log in, technically it could be however they wanted it themed. So that might be a good example. I would recommend like jumping into Bubble, creating a test app, just changing the background color, maybe on a blank page, and like testing how different that might look. So add like a button maybe for choosing dark theme, and like maybe when they click it, it changes the current user's theme to dark, and then it changes the background color of that based on that. So that would be a good test if you want to check out how to like change a dashboard or any type of data based on what the current user has in their profile.
Awesome. And on that note, everyone, Joe is on the east side, so it's like getting to 10:30 on his side. So we're going to wrap up because we've gone 20 minutes over, but I hope you folks out there enjoyed this. I hope you're going to go out and build some no-code tools. Like I said, Joe and I are available to answer any questions. I just put in, again, that video ask link. You'll be able to send any other questions that you may have, and I'll try and answer whatever I can. And if not, send it over to Joe. But thank you, everybody. Thank you, Joe. You're a champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Dale. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
See you, everybody.
Bye.